Chapter 1073. Senior Sister Qingwei, you have to be responsible for your words. The evidence here is conclusive. How can you say that I framed them? Mo Qinxian sneered at her. He didn't take you Qingwei and others seriously at all. Even if they knew that he framed Ma Qinyi and others, so what? There were witnesses and evidence. Unless Luo Qingtong could turn the tables, Ma Qinyi and Grand Supreme Dean would not be able to defend themselves. Who asked them to defend Luo Qingtong so much? If they wanted to blame someone, they should blame Luo Qingtong. If she didn't give them a chance, how could they lay their hands on Ma Qinyi and Grand Supreme Dean? Mo Qinxian said to Mo Qinxian. The person behind him said, if you know what's good for you, leave Ma Qinyi quickly. Otherwise, when you get out of here, you will be in trouble with him. When he said this, the group of people behind Ma Qinyi suddenly looked at each other. The latter was furious. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded in his mind. Don't worry about him. Just treat it as a monkey show. Let him jump around. The girl's voice was faint. She didn't say anything, but inexplicably gave people a feeling of wanting to believe her. The anger in Ma Qinye's heart disappeared instantly. His eyes lit up slightly, and an idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Could it be that Luo Qingtong had a way to deal with Mo Qinxian and others? He thought so, and his heart was full of expectation. When he looked at Mo Qinxian again, he was almost like a clown. Many of the people behind Ma Qinyi were swayed by Mo Qinchuan's words. After swaying left and right for a while, many people stood out one after another. Your Highness, I'm sorry. Some people said as they stepped away from Ma Qinyi and walked to Mo Qinxian. Your Highness King Wu. Those people bowed to Mo Qinxian. Ha! Good. You follow me, and I won't treat you badly. Mo Qinxian looked at this scene and was very happy in his heart. Finally, one day, he could poach the people around Ma Qinyi. He wondered if Ma Qinyi would be heartbroken when he saw this scene. Mo Qinxian thought, and he was very proud. Seeing this scene, Grand Supreme Dean immediately said to the mentors behind him, it seems that I'm going to be in trouble this time. If you want to leave, hurry up. Otherwise, if you miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. When he said these words, those mentors who followed him looked at each other for a while. Finally, a few people stood out with their heads lowered. Dean, I'm sorry. After they left, they walked to Ma Qinye's side to leave. After getting rid of the Grand Dean and Mo Qinai, the elders of the Saint Academy, Mo Qinxian, and the others all focused on Luo Qingtong. It's Luo Yu. The Machin elders of Ma Qinyi sneered at her. They all looked very unfriendly, and their eyes on Luo Qingtong were like knives. This woman was so arrogant just now, and now she fell into their hands. A group of people said coldly, Luo Qingtong, you practice evil magic, and you use it to deal with your peers of Machin Academy. You can't be forgiven. We're going to destroy your cultivation, arrest you, and punish you severely. When they said this, the group of people's gazes became abnormally sinister and vicious. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded. Chapter 1074. Luo Qingtong, who had been silent all this time, raised her eyebrows and stood up. She looked at the elders of the Sacred Academy who were about to attack. The show was over. It was her turn. Today, she would let them know what it meant to be too late to regret. You. Humph. The elders of the Sacred Academy looked at her and sneered. Luo Qingtong, don't think that you can buy time for someone to save you. Are you waiting for the chief instructor of the Sacred Academy? The group thought that they had seen through Luo Qingtong's plan. However, if he can save you, what about the people around you? The group sneered and threatened her. I advise you not to play any tricks. Otherwise, the people around you won't have a good ending. The group was unspeakably fearless. Even if the other party had the supreme holy token, they were not afraid. You are not qualified for me to play any tricks. Luo Qingtong snorted coldly. Only someone like Yi Qianxian who wanted to kill her was worthy of her careful escape. Just these people from the Council of Elders of the Holy Academy, they still wanted her to play tricks on them. They should see if they were qualified. How shameless! Luo Qingtong snorted disdainfully. You! As they spoke, they were ridiculed once again. The people from the Elder Council of the Sacred Academy flew into a rage. Just as they were about to take her down, the Grand Dean stood in front of Luo Qingtong with the rest of the instructors behind him. This girl is asking you a question. Did you not hear her? Are you deaf? The Grand Supreme Dean's face was filled with anger and displeasure. If she didn't use any sorcery, why did you touch her? Do you think we are dead? As he spoke, Mo Chenai led the only remaining supporters behind him and stood in front of the elders of the Academy of the Saint Academy. Elders, you'd better talk nicely. He flicked his sleeves coldly. Otherwise, it won't be a good thing if you hurt me. Ma Chenyi was still the crown prince, the heir to the throne of the Empire of Qin. If the elders of the Sacred Academy hurt him, it would be interesting. The group was aggrieved and didn't know whether to advance or retreat. The last elder of the Sacred Academy said angrily, "Okay. We will give you a chance. Luo Qingtong, let's see what you can prove." Idiot! The group of people looked very disdainful. So did Mo Chenxian and others. How could Luo Qingtong prove that she didn't practice sorcery? Ha! Yuan Ma was lying on the bed. She had used her opponent's unique soul skill to defeat him. Furthermore, according to the information he had gathered, she did not reveal any soul seal talent. In addition, the eye-soul imprint in Yuan Mo's body was indeed very special. It was born from the cold energy in his body. Under such circumstances, they only believed in one thing. That was, Luo Qingtong had indeed used an evil technique to steal the soul seal attribute from Yuan Ma's body. No matter what she said, it was impossible to prove that she did not practice any sorcery. The group of people was extremely complacent. Luo Qingtong looked at them indifferently and said, "You haven't said what will you do if I really prove it? What will you do?" The group of elders of the Sacred Academy sneered, "If you can really prove that you don't practice sorcery, then we will kowtow to you and apologize. How many times have we slandered you? How many times have we slapped ourselves? How about that?" Chapter 1075. Did Luo Qingtong want to use her goading method in front of them? Wasn't it just some conditions? They would satisfy her. Let's see what other tricks she could play. The group of elders of the academy had been tricked by Luo Qingtong. They felt that Luo Qingtong was deliberately provoking them to answer this question so that they wouldn't dare to answer. Then she could justifiably stall for time and bring this topic to an end. Therefore, when the group of people spoke, they were very neat and tidy, without any sloppiness at all. Let's see what other excuses Luo Qingtong could come up with. While they were thinking, they heard Luo Qingtong say, "That's it." Luo Qingtong looked at them with a sneer. "Just now when you swore that I practiced black magic, you wanted to destroy my cultivation and force the Grand Dean and the others to leave. If I prove that I didn't practice black magic, you have to treat the Grand Dean like you treated him before and get out of the Academy of the Empire of Qin. The Academy of Elders of the Academy will be completely disbanded. In addition, not only you, but all those who participated in slandering me will have to apologize to me, kneel down and kowtow. Do you dare to do it or not?" "Okay." The group of people was furious by Luo Qingtong's words. This woman said it deliberately, didn't she? Did she think that they would be paranoid and afraid because of what she said? They didn't dare to agree. It was ridiculous. The group of people agreed without hesitation, and then said in a gloomy voice, "But if you can't prove it, then kneel down and destroy your cultivation. Save us the trouble." Okay. Luo Qingtong naturally agreed. The two sides were tit for tat. On the other side, Mo Qinxian also agreed to Luo Qingtong's conditions. In his opinion, whether Luo Qingtong really practiced black magic or not, it didn't matter. She couldn't find the evidence. Thinking of this, he suddenly sneered. However, just as he laughed, he heard Luo Qingtong say, "Come up and show them." "You? Who?" Mo Qinxian was stunned. He looked up and saw that Su Xiaoxiao and others stepped forward as Luo Qingtong spoke. Boom! They already knew how to break Mo Qinchuan's trap. Just now, he and Luo Qingtong were watching the show from the side. At this moment, he simply raised his hand. With a boom, the few of them unleashed Yuanma's unique soul skill that Luo Qingtong had taught them. In an instant, there were a few explosions in the air of the hall. What? Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Even the Grand Principal and Ma Chenyi, who already knew beforehand that Luo Qingtong had a way to turn the tables, were shocked and stunned. Holy shit! Were these people trying to defy the heavens? The Grand Principal and others stared at Su Xiaoxiao and others with their eyes wide open. They didn't know about the others, but Su Xiaoxiao, Yuanhu, Sima Zhu, Ling Tianhan and the others couldn't have the ice attribute soul seal. Then how did they release the attack with the ice aura? Don't talk about using black magic. There were so many people, how many people's soul seal attributes would they need to rob? And these people's attribute strength was exactly the same. There was no difference. More importantly, the cold aura emitted by these people was exactly the same as Yuanma's. The latter's attribute soul seal was so special that Luo Qingtong could just rob it. Where could they find a few people who were exactly the same for Su Xiaoxiao to rob? Chapter 1076. The group of people was horrified in an instant. They looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others in horror, with a look of disbelief as if they had seen a ghost. The people of the Elders Association of the Sacred Academy were even more shocked and speechless. Not to mention Mo Qinxian. He finally knew why Luo Qingtong said that she could prove that she didn't practice evil arts. The aura in Su Xiaoxiao and the others' bodies was the proof. They didn't practice evil arts, but they could have the same cold power as Yuanma and use the latter's unique soul skill. In this case, Luo Qingtong was immediately cleared of suspicion. Mo Qinxian and the people of the Elders Association of the Sacred Academy almost popped their eyes out. Especially Mo Qinxian, his words just now were so complacent. This was how shocking and unbelievable it was. How was this possible? He looked at the attacks released by Su Xiaoxiao and the others in disbelief and almost staggered back and fell to the ground. Bang! As he retreated, he bumped into someone behind him and almost fell to the ground. And that person didn't react, just looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others in front of him in shock. Luo Qingtong and the others turned the tables. In such an impossible situation, they turned the tables. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open. Mo Qinxian staggered to stand firm, and finally rushed to Su Xiaoxiao and hissed, "Impossible. How could you release Yuanma's unique soul skill and cold power? You must have used some means. Did he use some kind of special treasure?" His figure and voice were extremely disheveled. Mo Qinxian couldn't accept his failure. He was about to trample Ma Chenyi to the bottom of the valley. And the Grand Dean would also lose the control of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. Luo Qingtong would be in big trouble. In such a case, how could he lose? It was one thing for Luo Qingtong to be able to use Yuanma's unique soul skill, but how could Su Xiaoxiao and the others be able to use it as well? Luo Qingtong's method of asking Su Xiaoxiao and the others to prove themselves was even more inexplicable than her choosing someone on the spot and copying their soul skills. Everyone present could see it clearly. The special treasure that Mo Qinxian mentioned was impossible. Let's not talk about how such a special treasure was able to replicate Yuan Ma's unique soul imprint power. How could Su Xiaoxiao and the others have so many special treasures? It would be amazing to have even one. That was a treasure, not some cabbage that could be found on the roadside. And Luo Qingtong's next words confirmed their thoughts. Of course, I have my own methods. If you think that this is not enough proof, I don't mind if you randomly choose another person and let them have the same cold power. Luo Qingtong's words were said casually, but everyone present was shocked. Luo Qingtong could let people have the power of the cold soul imprint at will. Such a shocking method, but she said it so casually. This was the power of the soul imprint. She could let people have it casually. Didn't that mean that as long as Luo Qingtong was willing, she could let anyone in the world become a soul personage? Even if the power of this soul personage could be controlled by her, but it was still a soul personage. My God! Everyone was shocked to the extreme. Chapter 1077. It's her. It must be her. If this means did not come from her, then it must be from Blackfield. But for so many years, this means had never been heard of. If it came from Blackfield, it was impossible that they had not heard of it at all. So this power must come from the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Oh my God! Thinking of that legendary reckless young man, that evil young man who created the fastest rising legend, but who was so mysterious that no one knew, everyone was panting heavily in their hearts. No one did not want to have such a powerful means. But thinking of the black field and the underworld venerable behind her, in an instant, the fire in everyone's heart seemed to be poured by a basin of cold water, and they did not have any other thoughts. And Luo Qingtong, who could be specially favored by the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, made them envious. She was really lucky. She actually had such a relationship with the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, and the latter helped her in various ways. While the others were envious, Mo Qinxian and the people of the Holy Academy's Elders Guild were so embarrassed that they could not even stand steadily. Since Luo Qingtong could say such words, it meant that she really had such confidence. So, they had racked their brains, but in fact, they had made a mistake. Luo Qingtong did not practice any sorcery at all, but got a kind of heaven-defying means, which could copy and use the power of other people's soul seals. Since it was not sorcery, they had no reason to judge Luo Qingtong at all. Those accusations and righteous words against Luo Qingtong, the Grand Dean, and Ma Chenyi just now looked extremely ridiculous. Just how confident were they before this? How badly their faces would be slapped. Thinking of the words they had just accused the Grand Dean and Ma Chenyi, the Elders Guild of the Holy Academy and Mo Qinxian felt a burning pain in their faces. No wonder Luo Qingtong did not say a word just now. This woman was simply laughing at them. To treat their performance as an act. Thinking about how they had become clowns for no reason, trying their best to deal with Luo Qingtong, Grand Dean, Mo Chenyi and the rest, but they were all treated as jokes. The elders of the Sacred Academy and Mo Qinxuan's eyes turned black. Was there anything more embarrassing than this? Su Deheng and Shen Qiuyue, who had been watching the development of the situation and waiting for Luo Qingtong and the others to be beaten to the bottom of the mud, also stood up abruptly with an unsightly expression and disbelief. Luo Qingtong actually has such means. Shen Qiuyue said in disbelief. It's not her, it must be that evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Su Deheng's expression was not much better than hers. The two of them looked at the beautiful girl who was surrounded by the crowd, and their hearts were filled with indescribable depression and hatred. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong could turn the situation around like this? Originally, Su Deheng was 100% sure that Luo Qingtong must have practiced the evil arts to be able to make Yuan Ma become like this. All her performances were all in line with the conditions of practicing the evil arts. But who would have thought that Luo Qingtong had obtained the nature-defying means from evil Dr. Ghost Eye? It was through that means that Yu Wenmo was defeated. And it also made him the laughingstock of the Empire of Qin for having eyes but failing to see. Thinking of this, Su Diheng was so angry that his heart ached. His gaze towards Luo Qingtong was filled with incomparable hatred. Those who supported the latter in the royal family of the Empire of Qin could not even let out a fart. I'm teaching my brother how to be a man. What's more, the dignity of the royal family of the Empire of Qin doesn't need to be defended by a villain who framed his brother and plotted to dethrone the crown prince of the Empire of Qin. Ma Chenyi looked at Mo Chenxian with a cold face. Don't think that you can fool me with those words. Mo Chenxian, just tell me whether you want to hit me or not. No. I'll ask someone to hit me for you. Slap. 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 After Ma Chenyi finished speaking, Mo Chenxian had already clenched his teeth and slapped himself hard. His heart was full of resentment. Ma Chenyi, don't think that you'll be fine after escaping this time. When I succeed, I'll kill you. And Luo Qingtong. After this series of events, the Grand Qin Sacred Academy would be completely removed from the Grand Qin Sacred Academy. From then on, the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin would be dominated by the Dean of the Grand Hall. It would completely become the Dean of the Grand Hall. What did they miss out on? The group of people beat their chests and stamped their feet. It was too late for regrets. Let's go. A good plan turned out like this. Not only did they not get rid of Luo Qingtong and avenge their daughter and apprentice, but the Dean of the Grand Hall had the upper hand. Seeing the elders of the Saint Academy and Mo Chenxian kneeling on the ground and slapping themselves hard, Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue's faces were extremely ugly, and they directly left. Chapter 1080. Luo Qingtong didn't stay too long in the Elders' Guild. After watching Mo Chenxian and the elders of the Saint Academy slap each other for a while, she left the follow-up of the matter to Mo Chenyi and the Grand Dean. She believed that the two of them must know what to do best for them. In order to frame the Grand Dean and Ma Chenyi, Mo Chenxian and the Elders' Guild of the Saint Academy dragged them into the water. They used a lot of forces and connections to do something in their mansions. After Ma Chenyi and the Grand Dean escaped this time, they immediately organized people to investigate this matter. They found out all the evidence that Mo Chenxian and the Elders' Guild of the Saint Academy had slandered them. By the way, they also destroyed all their forces and connections. Those that should be dealt with were dealt with and those that should be destroyed were destroyed. For a time, Mo Chenchuan's forces were severely reduced and he suffered a great loss. His forces and connections were not as good as those of Ma Chenyi. Now he was even more miserable after being messed with like this. He was so angry that he flew into a rage and vomited blood continuously. If it weren't for the last belief that the dragon qi in his body was stronger than that of Ma Chenyi and that he could definitely defeat him in the future and climb to the top, Mo Chenxian would have been completely disheartened and unable to recover from the setback. With all kinds of dark thoughts in his mind, Mo Chenchuan's face became colder and more malicious. And the Elders' Guild of the Saint Academy were all deprived of their status as elders and mentors and expelled from the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin under the evidence presented by the Grand Dean. It was not over. Because they were suspected of murdering the Crown Prince and distorting the truth, the Elders' Guild of the Saint Academy were arrested by the elite troops sent by the royal family of the Empire of Qin as soon as they left the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. This group of people would be severely punished. For a time, all kinds of collapse and crying sounds were heard. At this time, the Elders' Guild of the Saint Academy realized what they had done. They couldn't say how regretful they were. But at this time, there was no medicine for regret. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, didn't care about these things. She handed these matters over to the Grand Principal and Ma Chenyi to deal with, and didn't care about it anymore. She was currently preparing to give Ma Qingyi the reverse luck seizing technique. A month's time was almost up, and Ma Qingyi's dragon energy was almost fully nourished. When the time limit was up, Luo Qingtong would directly help him reverse the luck seizing technique. At that time, all the dragon qi that Imo Qinxian had absorbed from him over the years would be returned. Before that, Luo Qingtong still had some things to do. Here, this is for you. Luo Qingtong gave Ma Qingyi the information about Imo Qinxian that Yi Qianren had checked for her before. The latter took it and glanced at it. His eyes immediately widened. This. Ma Qingyi was shocked. Where did you get this information? It recorded all the things that Imo Qinxian had done in recent years, as well as the connections and forces of all parties. Both in the open and in the dark, it had everything. Even some of the secrets of the royal family were involved, and even Ma Qingyi didn't know about it. Ma Qingyi was shocked by the details of this information. Then he thought of the relationship between Luo Qingtong and the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, and quickly felt relieved. Did the evil Dr. Ghost Eye give this to you? With that person's status in the black field and the manpower he could use, he could indeed find these things. Luo Qingtong smiled but didn't say anything. Chapter 1081. He looked at a page in the stack of documents in shock. This. How dare Imo Qinxian lay his hands on my father? Ma Qingyi looked at the information that Imo Qinxian had bewitched the emperor of the Empire of Qin. No wonder his father's attitude towards him had been getting colder and colder over the years. Ma Qingyi had thought that his father was too disappointed in him because he could not make a breakthrough in his cultivation. Coupled with Imo Qinchuan's strong rise, this was the reason. But now it seemed that all this was probably because Imo Qinxian had bewitched the emperor of the Empire of Qin. According to the information, Imo Qinxian had bewitched the emperor of the Empire of Qin by increasing the dosage little by little. Therefore, the effect was not obvious at the beginning. Only when the other party made important decisions, he would be confused and unconsciously lean towards Imo Qinxian. Ma Qingyi thought that over the years, many things and power in his hands had been handed over to Imo Qinxian bit by bit. The latter had the upper hand in front of him and was unscrupulously arrogant in front of him. And he could only retreat because his cultivation had not been able to make a breakthrough and the dragon qi in his body was constantly decreasing. It was said that he had been silent for the past few years, and many ministers and forces who followed him were extremely disappointed because of this. But who would have thought that Ma Qingyi did not want to be silent at all? But what could he do when his father was not willing to let him do things? Imo Qinchuan's strength and power improved step by step, and he had all the advantages. So in a few years, he had completely caught up with him, who had been the crown prince for more than 10 years. Ma Qingyi had also been disheartened by his father's favoritism. But now it seemed that all this was because Imo Qinxian had bewitched the emperor. And when this drug was taken for a certain time and amount, the person would completely lose his mind and become a puppet of the drug maker. Bastard! How dare he! Ma Qingyi looked at the records in his hands and was furious. At this moment, the blue veins on the forehead of such a gentle and elegant person were all exposed. Ma Qingyi clenched his fists tightly. He had been the crown prince since he was a child and was doted on by the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin. The relationship between father and son was very good. During the years when Imo Qinxian rose to power, his father became more and more estranged from him. It was not that Ma Qingyi was not sad. Now that he knew that it was all Imo Qinchuan's doing, he wanted to eat him alive. However, he soon had a new question in his heart. Father is powerful, and there are countless masters in the palace. He also has a saint to look after him. Imo Qinxian drugged him. It's too dangerous. Why didn't he drug me? Ma Qingyi was, after all, the heir to the throne of the Empire of Qin. His meticulousness was incomparable to that of an ordinary person. After a moment of excitement, he immediately realized that there was something illogical about this. Anyway, from Mo Qinchuan's point of view, it was much safer and more convenient to attack him than to attack his father. As long as he got rid of him and controlled him, who else in the royal family of the Empire of Qin would be his match? At that time, even if imperial father didn't want to make him the crown prince, it would be impossible. Why did he use such a dangerous and easily discovered method? Because the purpose of the person behind him is your father. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She knew that the person behind Mo Qinxian was the heavenly doctor. Chapter 1082. She first used Mo Qinxian to deal with Ma Qinyi. After Mo Qinxian succeeded, she would directly abolish Mo Qinxian through the emperor of the Empire of Qin that she had already controlled. At that time, the Empire of Qin would be under her control. She would be the queen behind the scenes. As for Mo Qinxian, he was just a tool she chose. It was ridiculous that he didn't know it and thought that he was the one who benefited. The person behind the scenes. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Ma Qinyi was shocked. However, he soon realized what was going on. Yes, Mo Qinchuan's rise was too strange, and the loss of the dragon qi in his body was also very strange. In addition, now that he had the information of the bewitching drug, Ma Qinyi had already believed Luo Qingtong's words. There must be someone behind Mo Qinxian. And the purpose of the other party was the throne of the Empire of Qin. Mo Qinxian was just a pawn and a tool of the other party. Thinking of this, Ma Qinyi's face suddenly became very serious. Yes. The person behind the scenes. Luo Qingtong's face was indifferent. Do you remember what happened before the Great Chu? Luo Qingtong said, at that time, Prince Ning attacked Empress Dowager Yan Shi. There was another person behind him. Ma Qinyi paid attention to Luo Qingtong because of the royal family of the Great Chu. How could he not know about the royal family of the Great Chu? Now hearing Luo Qingtong's words, he immediately reacted. You mean that the person behind Mo Qinxian and the person behind Prince Ning of the Great Chu are the same person? He asked. Yes. You should have heard of her name, Heavenly Doctor. Luo Qingtong looked at Ma Qinyi and said, I'll give you the information, together with the antidote of the bewitching drug. You can take it to the Emperor of the Empire of Qin. In addition, I can tell you that the Heavenly Doctor has an inseparable relationship with the royal family of the Great Yong. You can check it in this direction. I'm also looking forward to the real identity of this Heavenly Doctor. The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips rose slightly. In the slight curve, there was a bit of evil, a bit of frivolity, and a bit of cunning. She had received the news from Yen and the others. The bloodline power of this generation of the royal family of the Great Yong was almost all. Only the emperor of the Great Yong dynasty's royal family could not be compared with the royal family of the other royal dynasties. And Luo's Yongs. And the royal family of the emperor of the Great Yong dynasty, with her with the emperor with her with the emperor, as had used. So. But Luo Qingtong already knew what was going on. If she hadn't guessed wrongly, it wasn't that the bloodline power of those royal family members didn't exist, but it had all been absorbed by Feng Yuan, right? That Heavenly Doctor and Feng Yuan definitely had a great relationship. Maybe it was her herself. Luo Qingtong was looking forward to the investigation of this matter by the royal family of the Empire of Qin. At that time, when Feng Yuan was dragged out, the scene would definitely be very beautiful. Her plot to seize the throne of the Empire of Qin failed, and she was dealt with. Luo Qingtong felt that if she heard this news, she would have to eat 2 more bowls of rice. With the temperament of the Emperor of the Empire of Qin, if he knew that Feng Yuan was involved with the person who plotted to kill him, even if the Great Yong royal family protected Feng Yuan, she would still be in big trouble. Not to mention the price that the Great Yong royal family would have to pay. Chapter 1083. Ma Chenyi took the document given by Luo Qingtong and went back. According to the list given in the document, he caught all the spies arranged by Mo Chenxian in the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin. Ma Chenyi knew that Mo Chenxian couldn't turn the tables this time, so he didn't hide anything when he took action. In fact, he couldn't hide it. Most of the spies arranged by Mo Chenxian were close to the emperor of the Empire of Qin. Thinking about it, only these people could make the emperor of the Empire of Qin fall into the trap without any warning. And the dosage of the drug was so little that no one could detect it. If it weren't for the document given to him by Luo Qingtong, Ma Chenyi wouldn't have believed the consequences. He was afraid that when they came to their senses, the whole imperial palace of the Empire of Qin would have changed hands. According to the document given by Luo Qingtong, the emperor of the Empire of Qin had been taking the drug for nearly 5 years. After a few more months, he would completely lose his mind and become a dog under the feet of the other party. It was ridiculous that Mo Chenxian thought that the other party did all these for him, but he didn't know that the other party almost controlled the whole imperial palace of the Empire of Qin with his help. Once the emperor of the Empire of Qin was controlled by the other party, the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin would suffer a disaster. And the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin would completely change hands and be controlled by the other party. How terrible was this? Ma Chenyi was frightened as he caught all the spies and tied them up in front of the emperor of the Empire of Qin. The Emperor of Qin was furious because of Ma Chenyi's unscrupulous actions and thought that he was trying to usurp the throne. However, before he could do anything, Ma Chenyi had already appeared in front of him with a group of people. Ma Chenyi told him everything and put the detailed information in front of the Emperor of the Empire of Qin. "Father, these are the results of my investigation. Please have a look. In addition, I've also checked all these people. They are all under the influence of the drug and have completely lost their minds and been controlled by the other party. That's why they drugged you." The Emperor of the Empire of Qin was so strict that ordinary people couldn't get close to him. As for the people serving him, they were almost all his trusted aides and men of sacrifice. Under such circumstances, the other party wanted to poison him without him knowing it. Therefore, he could only make a move on his trusted aides and turn them into puppets first. When Mo Chenyi caught them, he had already used the method taught by Luo Qingtong to check them. These people were all under the influence of the drug. And they couldn't be saved. Even if they were saved by force, they would become complete idiots. The Emperor of the Empire of Qin looked at the information and evidence in front of him furiously. This was especially so when the guards of the imperial palace found bags of medicine that had been used to drug the great Qin sage emperor. The fury on his face reached its peak. Bang! He flicked his sleeves heavily and the energy in his body exploded. In an instant, those who were caught and kneeling on the ground without any change in their expressions and didn't know fear were all shattered into pieces. He shouted angrily in the rain of broken bodies and blood. "Send my order immediately to the Wu imperial mansion. Catch that unfilial son and bring him to me. Also, take away his title of King Wu from now on. Lock him up." Chapter 1084. The Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin was furious to the extreme. At the same time, Mo Chenxian didn't know what had happened in Lord Wu's mansion. Because of the matter with Luo Qingtong, he had suffered extremely heavy losses. He had lost more than half of his forces and connections. But fortunately, he still had some trump cards in his hand that had not been exposed. And his strength was also very strong, which could finally solve some of his urgent needs. And his biggest trump card was the Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin in the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin. "Ma Chenyi, you destroyed my forces and connections. Do you really think I can't deal with you in this way? And you, Luo Qingtong. Bitch, I'll let you know my power sooner or later." Hiss. Mo Chenxian swore and pulled the wound on his face. That day at the elders' conference, he slapped himself nearly 1,000 times. Even if he was strong, his handsome and gloomy face was swollen like a pig's head. He had not fully recovered after 2 days of recuperation in the mansion. He was so angry that he couldn't maintain his usual coldness and shrewdness at all. Not to mention that he had suffered such heavy losses in the past few days. Just as he secretly gritted his teeth and prepared to ask the Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin to give Ma Chenyi a difficult task to teach him a lesson and destroy some of his forces and connections, the guard outside suddenly ran in. No. Something bad happened. Your Highness. The guard ran to Mo Chenxian, out of breath. His face was full of horror. Before he could speak, Mo Chenxian, who was already in a bad mood, directly raised his foot and kicked him out with a bang. How dare you? Who allowed you to yell in front of me? Mo Chenxuan's face was extremely cold. He thought that these guards didn't have any respect for him because they saw that his forces were greatly damaged. The guard was kicked to the ground and couldn't speak for a long time. Before Mo Chenxian asked his men to drag him out, there was a sudden cry outside. Seal them all. Following this angry shout, a group of people instantly swept in from the outside door like a whirlwind. Everywhere he passed, there was chaos and chaos. The people of the martial imperial manor immediately went into hiding, not daring to resist. Because those people were wearing the uniform of the personal guards of the Emperor of the Empire of Qin. The fact that they had moved out meant that they were acting on the Sage Emperor's orders. How dare you? What's wrong with you guys? How dare you trespass into my martial imperial manor? Hearing the sound in the room, Mo Chenxian immediately flew out of his main courtyard. When he saw the group of personal guards barging around outside, he immediately shouted angrily. He never thought that the fact that he had drugged the Sage Emperor had been exposed. In his view, if the other party was unable to notice it even after 5 years, there was no way the other party would be able to do so now. Moreover, as more and more people gathered around the Saint Emperor, it would be even easier for him to hide the fact that he had drugged the Saint Emperor. That heavenly doctor's methods were extraordinary. In the past, she was still trembling with fear. Now, it seemed that no one could see through the medicine she gave. So it was definitely not the Sage Emperor who wanted to deal with him. Mo Chenxian wondered if Ma Chenyi had said something in front of the Emperor, which made the Emperor so angry that the Emperor came to arrest him. Thinking of how he had framed Ma Chenyi for finding sorcery for Luo Qintong, Mo Chenxuan's face turned cold. Chapter 1085. He even dared to bring this up in front of the Emperor. However, he did not expect that the Emperor would side with him. As long as he was willing, not only would he not be able to get justice, he would also be severely reprimanded by the Emperor. He would like to see how unbelievable the Emperor would be then. Thinking of this, Mo Chenxian sneered and walked towards the guards, ready to reprimand them. However, before he could get close, the leader of the Imperial Guards, an expert of the Sage State, glanced at him indifferently and waved his hand. Take him down. Bang! In an instant, Mo Chenxian was pressed to the ground by a group of bodyguards. His head smashed hard on the bluestone tiles below, making a dull thud. Mo Chenxuan's body was stepped on, and he was instantly stunned. How dare you? I'm King Wu of the Empire of Qin. How dare you treat me like this? Let me go. He struggled and shouted angrily. These people must have been instructed by Ma Chenyi to deal with him. What a bastard. When he was in front of the Emperor, he would definitely reprimand them. However, as soon as he spoke, the words of the Imperial Guards commander made his mind go blank. King Wu of the Empire of Qin. Ha! The Imperial Guards commander looked at him with disdain. I'm afraid you won't have the chance in this lifetime. Mo Chenxian, you colluded with others to assassinate the Emperor. The Emperor has ordered to arrest you and take away the position of King Wu. If you want to scold us for being presumptuous, you can continue to do so later. Because we will be even more presumptuous in the future. Ha! The Imperial Guard's commander suddenly burst into laughter. He waved his hand, and a group of people dragged Mo Qinxian like a dead dog. These Imperial Guards served the Emperor, and they all heard the Emperor's order today. Mo Qinxian would never have the chance to turn the tables. Naturally, they would not be polite to him. Moreover, everyone in the Empire of Qin knew that Mo Qinxian and Ma Qinyu were not on good terms. Now that King Wu had been deposed, the heir to the throne of the Empire of Qin was the Crown Prince. Under such circumstances, they would naturally try their best to trample on Ma Qinyi and the Saint Emperor. Mo Qinxian was dragged along by these Imperial Guards, and his heart was numb to the extreme. What's going on? How did things turn out like this? His face was filled with anger and disbelief. Shouldn't Ma Qinyi go to the Empire of Qin's sage emperor to complain? Then, he would rush over and use the effect of the bewitching drug to make his imperial father favor him and punish Ma Qinyi. How did he end up losing the title of martial king? And what was the meaning of colluding with others to harm the sage emperor? Could it be that the things she had done to imperial father had been exposed? Impossible. Mo Qinxian thought and shook his head hard. That bewitching drug was not an ordinary drug. It was colorless and odorless, but it was extremely effective. He only used a little bit at a time, so it was impossible to be discovered. Even if they wanted to find out, they wouldn't have waited until now. But, what if it was this? Mo Qinxian thought and his heart trembled. When he thought about the consequences of murdering the sage emperor, his legs went weak. Not to mention the fact that the Imperial Guards were dragging him around like a dog. Even if he had to stand up, he wouldn't be able to walk. Mo Qinxian's confidence came from his control over the sage emperor and the dragon energy in his body. Now, although he had the dragon energy in his body, once the news of murdering the sage emperor came out, how could he still have the chance to become the heir to the throne? It was almost a dead end. Chapter 1086. When Mo Qinxian was captured, a group of people arrived at the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. Is this the holy capital of the Empire of Qin? It doesn't look as prosperous as our subordinate cities. The group of people entered the city. A man with an aquiline nose who was at the front said coldly. His words were full of disdain and arrogance. Ha! Elder Xia must be joking. The holy capital of the Empire of Qin is only the capital city of the Empire of Qin's holy dynasty. The Empire of Qin's holy dynasty occupies less than a quarter of the eastern domain in the true Spill continent. How can its capital city be compared with our celestial palace's subordinate cities? It should be compared with the Blackfield's main city, the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern domain, the wild city of the western wilderness, and the Sea Emperor's dragon court of the northern domain. This is the sacred capital of the great Qin Empire. It is already an honor for Elder to be able to set foot here. The people around Elder Xia all agreed one after another. His words were full of flattery. Ha! Elder Xia was in a very good mood when he heard this. He looked at the people around him with admiration and laughed heartily as he walked forward. Let's go. Let's go find Deacon Shen. We need her to take us to the western wilderness this time. We just came out of the hidden world, so there won't be any problems. The group of people immediately walked towards the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, Soul Institute Master's Residence. Su Deheng and Shen Chuyue were sitting beside Su Jinyue's bed with a gloomy face. The human-faced ghost sores on the latter's body had just broken out. She was screaming and rolling on the ground crazily, tearing her hair and scratching her body. Her appearance was miserable and painful. Su Deheng and Shen Chuyue felt sorry for her. They couldn't wait to kill Luo Qintong in order to alleviate his daughter's pain. That little bitch. Shen Chuyue's face was extremely cold. She originally thought that Luo Qingtong would definitely suffer at the elders' assembly, but she didn't expect that she would use such a heaven-defying method to turn the situation around. Not only that, but Mo Qinxian and the people of the Elders Guild were also in big trouble. As a result, they didn't have a single reliable helper. Fortunately, she had just received a message from the sect. Elder Xia and the others were about to arrive. Once she begged the other party to speak to Blackfield and let Luo Qingtong cure her daughter's illness, she would definitely make that Luo Qingtong suffer greatly. She didn't care who caused these human-faced ghost sores on her daughter's body. She would put it all on Luo Qingtong's account. Didn't that evil Dr. Gui Tong think highly of her? If he crippled her and let her experience more pain than Jinyue, the evil Dr. Ghost I would also be in great pain, right? Humph. Shen Chuyue's face turned cold as she laughed. The noble and graceful face of a noblewoman was extremely cold and stern at this moment. At this moment, there was a noise outside the courtyard. Deacon Shen. Seeing a group of people appear in the courtyard, Shen Chuyue and Su Diheng hurriedly got up, opened the door and walked out. Elder Xie, you are here. Shen Chuyue greeted him excitedly. Su Diheng also hurriedly saluted him. Elder Xie's aura was extremely tyrannical. Su Diheng was already an expert who was close to surpassing the sage realm, but in front of Elder Xie, he couldn't help but feel suffocated. This was the shock caused by the pressure of the expert. Before Su Diheng, only the transcendence of the empire of Qin's holy dynasty gave him this kind of feeling. Chapter 1087. Su Diheng only knew that the hidden world was different from the rest of the true Spill continent. The sects there were extremely powerful. But he didn't think that they would be strong to such a degree. Celestial Palace could casually send out an outer court elder, and they were all at the transcendent saint realm. Then, what kind of strength did the inner court deacons and elders have? There was no need to mention the total faction masters. And Celestial Palace wasn't even the strongest sect in the hidden world. No wonder there was a saying among those who knew of the hidden world's existence. If one wasn't a saint, they couldn't enter the hidden world. Unless it was a grand annual selection, no one below the saint realm had the qualifications to enter the hidden world. They didn't even know where the entrance was. And in the entire true Spill continent, how many people could enter the saint realm? Su Diheng himself had been stuck between the sage realm and beyond the sage realm. He had been unable to break through the barrier for a long time. The elder Xia arrogantly nodded. His eyes swept over Su Diheng, completely ignoring him. To the sects of the hidden world, the saint realm powerhouses of the true Spill continent weren't worth their attention. The genius disciples of their sects were far stronger than this. Weak. He was too weak. If this person wasn't Shen Chuyue's husband, and if Shen Chuyue wasn't the great elder of the outer court, he wouldn't even bother looking at him. Elder Xia. After the elder Xia arrived, Shen Chuyue immediately spoke of her request. Elder Xia, I only have one daughter. Please help me. In the future, I will definitely repay you. Shen Chuyue wiped her tears. Evil Dr. Ghost Pupil? What kind of powerful alchemist could there be in the true Spill continent? The elder Xia coldly snorted, his face full of disdain. He raised his hand and pointed to a disciple beside him, saying, Lu Tong, you go and treat her. Yes. The disciple named Lu Tong nodded and directly pushed open the door. He walked in front of Su Jinyue and began to treat her. However, when he touched Su Jinyue, all the human-faced ghost sores on her body seemed to be awakened. They opened their mouths wide and bit him with sharp screams. Su Jinyue screamed sharply. The awakening of those human-faced ghost sores was as terrible as being devoured by thousands of ghosts. The intense pain caused her to scream uncontrollably. Lu Tong was trying his best to control the human-faced ghost sores in her body. It wasn't as if he had never seen such a dark poison formed from yin qi before. However, what he encountered this time was exceptionally strange. The yin qi in the other party's body seemed to be inexhaustible. Lu Tong tried his best to use his medical skills to expel the yin qi from the man's body. He hoped that the human-faced ghost sores would calm down and then remove them one by one. However, the human-faced ghost sores were not affected at all. Instead, they became more and more aggressive. In the end, he had no choice but to retreat. Elder Xia, I can't. This poison is too strange. I can't cure it. He was sweating profusely as he walked to Elder Xia. What? You're the most outstanding disciple of the outer sects Pillhole. You're actually unable to cure this poison. Elder Xia's face was stunned. He remembered that he had just said that evil Dr. Ghost Pupil was nothing special and that he didn't need to personally deal with him. His tone was full of contempt. Now, he had slapped himself in the face. For a time, his face was a bit ugly. Chapter 1088. Shen Chuyue stepped forward and said, Elder Xia, you don't know, that evil Dr. Gui Tong is a bit strange. She is already an alchemist at such a young age, and her alchemy skills are unfathomable. No one knows what level she has reached. But we heard that when Empress Dowager Yan Shi of the Great Chu royal family was looking for a husband, there was a bloodline pill at the wedding, and it was extraordinary. Otherwise, how could she make the Blackfield Ming Zun think so highly of her? I didn't make it clear to you before, so you misunderstood. Shen Chuyue's words gave Elder Xia a way out of the embarrassing situation. Oh. It turns out that this evil Dr. Gui Tong is so powerful. His face softened a bit, and he nodded and said, since she is the person that the Blackfield Ming Zun thinks highly of, she is naturally different. As if the person who despised Luo Qingtong just now was not him. In this regard, Shen Chuyue and others did not even change their faces, and they all smiled and agreed. Then, Shen Chuyue said carefully, then Elder Xia, she meant that she asked him to help her. Elder Xia naturally understood what she meant. Seeing that the other party had spoken well and saved his face, he nodded proudly and said, sure. When we go to the Western Wilderness, I will find time to go to the Blackfield to meet Ming Zun and plead for you. When Elder Xia said this, he thought that Shen Chuyue and others would be grateful, but she said awkwardly, she wanted to let evil Dr. Gui Tong make a move first, and then deal with Luo Qingtong. What's more, this time they made a move to deal with Luo Qingtong, although the first one was Imo Qinxian, the two of them were not involved from the beginning to the end. But who didn't know the role they played in it? If Luo Qingtong told this to evil Dr. Gui Tong, thinking like this, Shen Chuyue suddenly became anxious. She asked, Elder Xia, can you hurry up? Shall we go to the Blackfield today and invite that evil Dr. Ghost Eye over? Humph. Hearing this, Elder Xia's face fell. What was wrong with Shen Chuyue? So tactless. It was enough that he had agreed to her request, but she still wanted a yard after taking an inch. Today. Putting aside the fact that he might not be able to meet Ming Zun today, he had just arrived here today. How could he possibly be tired from the long journey because of her? As Elder Xia thought of this, he suddenly felt very uneasy. Seeing that his complexion was not good, the disciples around him suddenly stood up and said to Shen Chuyue, Deacon Shen, it's better to be content with what you have. Elder Xia, you've worked hard today. Let's talk about your matter later. Since they had already said this much, Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue naturally couldn't continue. But thinking that it was very likely that Luo Qingtong had already passed the news to evil Dr. Gui Tong. If they didn't invite evil Dr. Gui Tong over as soon as possible, it was very likely that after the latter received the news, he wouldn't come to treat them anymore. Thinking like this, the two of them suddenly felt anxious. At this moment, a mournful voice rang out. Then, a faint cold air came out of Yuanma's room. It was the innate cold disease in his body acting up. Hearing the screams, Elder Xie fiercely frowned and turned to leave. In case Shen Chuyue and her husband asked him to do something again. Chapter 1089. Squeak squeak, a weak but sharp sound rang out. Then, a black shadow suddenly scuttled out from Elder Xie's sleeve and ran towards Yuanma's room. Gold-seeking hamster. Seeing the black shadow scuttling out, Elder Xie's expression suddenly changed and he hastily chased after it. However, the gold-seeking hamster's speed was extremely fast. In a flash, it had already scuttled into Yuanma's room. The door of the room opened a crack, just enough for the gold-seeking hamster to pass through. Gold-seeking hamster. Hearing Elder Xie's exclamation, Shen Chuyue's expression also froze. She knew about the gold-seeking hamster. It was the treasure of their celestial palace. The gold-seeking hamster's sense of smell was extremely sensitive, especially when it came to finding treasures. It was simply like a natural radar, the kind that could naturally play back. As long as a treasure was in a place before, it would leave behind a long and dense scent. After that, even if the treasure was no longer there, it would still be able to follow it. Now that it suddenly ran into Yuanma's room, could it be that it discovered some treasure on his body? Thinking of this, Shen Chuyue hurriedly pulled Su Diheng into the room. Elder Xie and the rest were already inside. Yuanma was lying on the bed, his expression incomparably painful. The cold air in his body would flare up every 2 hours. At that time, the cold air would invade his body, corroding his bones and devouring his heart. It was truly miserable. Every time this happened, his heart would be filled with regret. Why did he despise Luo Qingtong so much in the beginning? Why did he allow his own mother and sister to treat her badly? Why did he allow Tianyu's royal family to ignore her? If it wasn't for this, he would still be the Yuanma who enjoyed the reputation of being a genius in the empire of Qin's sacred academy. He would still be the proud student of the Soul Academy's great teacher. He would still be the genius expert who could possibly reach the peak in the future. It was laughable that for the peak, he despised Luo Qingtong in every possible way, thinking that she wasn't worthy of him. But only now did he realize that without her, he was nothing. He was even worse than a cripple. So what if he was a strong expert? In the end, he still couldn't withstand the onslaught of the innate cold. Thinking of this, Yuanma felt pain and regret in his heart. He knew that Luo Qingtong had deliberately left his strength intact. She wanted him to experience the feeling of being powerless despite having the strength to take revenge on him for despising her and the Luo family because of his strength in the past. Yuanma rolled on the bed in pain. The black shadow stopped in front of his chest. Creak creak. It was a golden mouse the size of a palm. Its fur was very smooth, soft, and round. There was even a tuft of white hair on its head. Creak creak. It was clawing at Yuanma's chest. Its 4 little claws were very happy, and its round little butt was shaking. Elder Xie rushed forward and picked it up. Then, he looked at Yuanma's chest. Seeing that there was a faint trace of a pendant, she immediately raised her eyebrows and asked, was there something hanging on his body? Shen Chuyue looked at Su Diheng. There was a pendant, Su Diheng hurriedly said. It was said to be his and Luo Qingtong's engagement token. Luo Qingtong. Elder Xie's eyes turned. Bring me to where she lives. Okay. Chapter 1090. Especially Shen Chuyue. She knew the peculiarity of the gold-seeking hamster. Naturally, she knew why Elder Xie went to Luo Qingtong's place. She didn't expect that little bitch to have a treasure that could cause the gold-seeking hamster to react. She was secretly happy, but then she felt some regret. They didn't know about this before. Otherwise, that thing wouldn't have fallen into Luo Qingtong's hands. The gold-seeking hamster's ability was strange. Ordinary treasures couldn't enter its eyes. Since it reacted to the pendant that Yuanmo once wore, it meant that the pendant was extraordinary. She didn't know what level of treasure it was. It was really a pity. On the other hand, Elder Xia was very happy. He brought the gold-seeking hamster out because of the incident in the far west wilderness. He didn't expect to have such a pleasant surprise here. Something that could attract the gold-seeking hamster's attention must be a treasure of the saint realm or above. Moreover, it wasn't an ordinary treasure. Thinking of this, he suddenly smiled happily. The group arrived at Luo Qingtong's place. Elder Xia, this is where Luo Qingtong lives. Su Deheng and Elder Xia stood not far from the courtyard of the Heavenly Demon Group's encampment. They raised their hands and pointed at the courtyard in front of them. It's here. Elder Xia looked at the courtyard and wanted to say something. Suddenly, the gold-seeking hamster in his arms broke free from his hand. Squeak squeak. The little gold-colored hamster with white fur scurried into the courtyard in front of them. Its movements were fierce and fast. It was even faster than when it went to find Yuanmo. In the courtyard, Luo Qingtong was sitting in the pavilion and talking to Little Pig. This map of the Saint Monarch's tomb is only a part of the map. It's quite interesting. She fiddled with the jade thumb ring in her hand. After activating the Repair Eye ability, Luo Qingtong could easily see that the small map in the center of the jade thumb ring was incomplete. For maps had to be stacked together to reveal the true appearance of the map. This method was really novel. If Luo Qingtong didn't have this eye ability, she probably wouldn't know the mystery behind it. From the beginning of the Saint Monarch's tomb to the small map in the middle, every step was exquisitely made and concealed. It was really exciting. The tomb of a Saint Realm powerhouse wasn't easy to enter. The things inside wasn't easy to take. I don't know who the other party is, but this method is cunning. Little Pig listened to her words, his lips twitched. That's a Saint Realm powerhouse was too deceptive. It could already imagine the other people who had gotten the map running in excitedly, only to be cheated so miserably that they couldn't even cry out for their mothers. Luo Qingtong chuckled as she listened. Squeak squeak squeak. A soft and sharp voice rang out. Ants was. What is this? Luo Qingtong instinctively raised her hand to block. Paji. Something soft instantly stuck to her hand. Squeak squeak squeak. A small and soft mouse was hugging one of her fingers, squeaking as it moved its four limbs in her hand. It's little but was swaying from side to side. It was so cute. A hamster. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the little thing in her hand. She picked it up. Chapter 1091. Why did such a little thing run over to her place? Moreover, how did it enter the holy court of the Empire of Qin? There were actually hamsters as pets in this other world. Why hadn't she heard of it before? Luo Qingtong was just thinking when she suddenly heard Little Pig exclaim in surprise. Gold-seeking hamster. It looked at the little golden-furred hamster in Luo Qingtong's hand that was intimately and unceasingly rubbing against Luo Qingtong's body, and the corners of its mouth twitched as it spoke. This is a gold-seeking hamster. As it spoke, it bounced with its four hooves and jumped in front of the little hamster. Strange, why would it appear here? Little Pig used its little hooves to slap the little hamster in Luo Qingtong's hand. The latter's round and furry body was slapped here and there like a rubber ball, and it instantly became angry. It squeaked as it gave up its love of rubbing against Luo Qingtong and turned to glare angrily at Little Pig. What are you looking at? You don't like your Grandpa Pig? Little Pig looked at the little gold hamster's angry little eyes, and he immediately extended his little hooves to slap it. Speak quickly, where did you come from? His true body was an existence that crushed all beasts, and such a little hamster actually dared to be disrespectful to him. Little Pig's little hooves slapped even more cheerfully. Squeak, squeak, squeak. That little gold hamster became even more furious. Luo Qingtong watched the interaction between the pig and hamster from the side, and she couldn't help but laugh for a while. When she saw the little gold hamster being slapped by Little Pig to the point its fur stood on end, yet it was unable to struggle free from her hand to fight it with its life on the line, she instantly laughed and swatted away Little Pig's little hooves. "All right, stop bullying it. What's this gold-seeking hamster?" Luo Qingtong raised her hand to tease the little gold hamster, and the latter seemed to be especially affectionate towards her. When it saw her finger move over, it instantly squeaked as it raised its pair of little claws and moved over. Little Pig was just about to say something when suddenly, the little gold mouse's body violently twitched at this moment. Luo Qingtong withdrew her fingers and looked at the little golden mouse struggling violently in her hand. Its little head was shaking left and right, and it looked like it was in great pain. As it cried out, it looked at Luo Qingtong with its big and cute eyes. The pair of round eyes that occupied almost half of its face were filled with attachment and reluctance to part with Luo Qingtong. But at the same time, there seemed to be some kind of force pulling it away. Luo Qingtong looked at it and frowned slightly. At this moment, Little Pig suddenly barked. Not good. Looking at the little golden mouse's pained appearance, it seemed to be struggling to break free from Luo Qingtong's hand and escape. It suddenly shouted, "Stop it! Don't let it run away!" Little Pig's expression was grave. This gold-seeking hamster was raised by someone else, and it's being urged to go back right now. At that time, the existence of the 9 layers exquisite sword and the life and death sword in your body will be exposed. As a fellow beast, Little Pig naturally knew the ability of the gold-seeking hamster. It was an automatic treasure-seeking tool. If this gold-seeking hamster was wild, then so be it. But it was obviously raised by someone. Now that it was being urged to go back, it would definitely expose the fact that Luo Qingtong had many treasures here. Chapter 1092. It was said that a dog's nose was the most sensitive. In fact, this gold-seeking hamster's nose was the most sensitive. However, this gold-seeking hamster was very rare, and ordinary people wouldn't have it. Moreover, they couldn't afford to raise it. Where did it come from? Little Pig didn't have time to think too much and hurriedly had Luo Qingtong stop it. Originally, when Luo Qingtong heard that this little golden hamster was being raised by someone else, she was prepared to let it go. She wouldn't go so far as to snatch someone else's pet. However, when she heard Little Pig's words, her expression suddenly froze. The 9-layer exquisite pagoda and the life and death sword were her biggest secrets. At the same time, they were also her 2 trump cards. They absolutely couldn't be known by others. Although Tianmingzi had said that there wouldn't be any enemies here, Luo Qingtong didn't want these 2 treasures to be exposed and attract unnecessary trouble. She immediately stretched out her hand. The instant the little golden hamster was about to leave her palm, she pressed it back. The young girl's eyes lit up. Layers and layers of blood-red color spread out from the inside. In an instant, she activated an eye technique. Under the gaze of Luo Qingtong's eyes, an array brand instantly appeared on the little golden hamster's body. It was a beast-taming array. Moreover, it was very profound. It couldn't be set up unless one was a spirit array master in the sage realm or above. At this moment, a spiritual power fluctuation was constantly emitted from the array brand, exerting pressure on the little golden hamster's soul, forcing it to listen to the order and immediately return. The little golden hamster obviously didn't want to leave Luo Qingtong. It was a gold-seeking hamster and naturally yearned for places with treasures. The higher the level of the treasure, the more it liked it. The life and death sword and the 9-layer exquisite pagoda that Luo Qingtong possessed were both rare treasures. Especially the 9-layer exquisite pagoda, which was also the demon-subduing pagoda. The benefits to demonic beasts were obvious. Of course, the little golden hamster didn't want to leave Luo Qingtong. However, that mental energy fluctuation was constantly urging it, causing it to feel extremely painful. At this moment, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and pointed at the core of the array imprint. The mental power in her mind surged out. In an instant, before that mental power fluctuation could react, the array imprint was broken. Creak creak. The little golden mouse was freed in an instant. It jumped onto Luo Qingtong's body and circled around her. It was so happy. From time to time, it would rub its little head against Luo Qingtong and look at her with sparkling eyes, as if it was looking at a big treasure. Outside the courtyard of the Heavenly Demon Group's encampment, Elder Xie's mental power that was controlling the gold-seeking hamster to return was suddenly cut off. His expression instantly changed. This gold-seeking hamster was the treasure of the Celestial Palace. This time, he had brought it out for great use. Nothing must go wrong. Go. Let's go in. That gold-seeking hamster must be with Luo Qingtong. He didn't know what level of treasure the other party had on her that allowed the gold-seeking hamster to break free from his mental power control. If he let the gold-seeking hamster escape, he would be skinned alive when he returned to the sect. Moreover, Luo Qingtong had such a powerful treasure on her. He must get it. Thinking so, Elder Xie immediately lifted his leg and was about to rush towards the courtyard of the Heavenly Demon Group's encampment. However, just as he made his move. Chapter 1093. Elder Xie, no. This is the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Seeing that Elder Xie was going to make a move on Luo Qingtong, the two of them were wild with joy. However, they couldn't let Elder Xie make a move here. Elder Xie, this Luo Qingtong is highly valued by the Grand Supreme Dean. The two of them said, if you make a move here, you will definitely alarm him. When he activates the defensive formation of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, even if you are a Saint Transcendence, you won't be able to do anything in a short time. What if that Luo Qingtong takes the opportunity to run away? Hearing their words, Elder Xie stopped in his tracks. Then what do you two mean? Elder Xie didn't think that Luo Qingtong could escape from his hands. But it was better to be safe than sorry. What's more, now that the gold-seeking hamster had broken free, it must be by her side. If that little girl saw his intention, she might use the gold-seeking hamster to threaten him. At that time, he would really have to hold back. Thinking like this, he suddenly looked at the two of them and said, in our opinion, we might as well. The two of them said their plan. After discovering that Luo Qingtong had a treasure on her, Su Diheng and Shen Chuyuab planned how to consign Luo Qingtong to eternal damnation. Not only her, but also the Grand Supreme Dean and the others who had been shielding her. Therefore, they stopped Elder Xie and didn't let him make a move here. Otherwise, relying on the defensive formation of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, not to mention what would happen to Luo Qingtong, the Grand Supreme Dean and the others would definitely be fine. Not to mention that after the matter became big, it might alarm the Saint Transcendence in the Imperial Palace of the Empire of Qin. At that time, the Grand Supreme Dean and the others would be even more fine. How could Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue allow such a thing to happen? It was rare for such a good weapon like Elder Xie to come to their door. They must make good use of it. If you want to blame someone, blame Luo Qingtong for being too lucky. He actually had such a treasure in his hands. Humph. They should be thanking her for courting death. As the two of them thought so, they looked at each other with a gloomy expression. Then, they laughed coldly together. Good. We'll do as you say. After listening to the two suggestions, Elder Xie nodded his head and left. In the courtyard, after they stopped the little gold mouse, Luo Qingtong looked at Little Pig and asked, everything will be fine after we stop it? She furrowed her brows and looked at the little golden mouse that was squatting on her shoulder intimately. It completely treated her as a super treasure and loved her passionately, constantly rubbing against her body to sell its cuteness. Needless to say, her appearance was quite lovable. Luo Qingtong thought. She raised her hand and flicked the little guy's forehead. Then, she watched it fall to the ground with a thud. It took him a while to get up dizzily. The corner of little pig's mouth twitched when he saw her actions. This action is so familiar, isn't it? When I tried to act cute and wanted to follow Luo Qingtong, I was treated like this. Thinking of this, little pig resentfully glanced at Luo Qingtong. Is this guy a woman or not? Why is he so cold-hearted? Normally, when people see such a cute little animal, shouldn't they take extra care of it? Why does this woman like to bully them? However, little pig didn't know that there was a kind of cuteness that made people want to bully them whenever they saw them. It should be fine. Chapter 1094. It guessed that the gold-seeking hamster must have accidentally run to Luo Qingtong's place. In that case, the other party didn't summon it back, so naturally, they wouldn't know what happened to Luo Qingtong. But, you'd better put it into the 9-layered exquisite pagoda to avoid being tracked by its aura. Also, Little Pig said to her, make a fake treasure aura and bury it somewhere, then let people find it later. Lure them away. Otherwise, they will definitely look for this little thing all over the world. Little Pig glanced at the golden-furred hamster squatting on Luo Qingtong's shoulder. The gold-seeking hamster was a rare treasure beast that ordinary people couldn't afford to raise. Moreover, it was very rare. Now that it disappeared, they would definitely search for it. If someone saw it rushing into Luo Qingtong's courtyard, it would be troublesome. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. She also thought so. Just in case, it was better to make a fake treasure to lure them away. Luo Qingtong was very familiar with this matter. She casually took out a trashy ring and covered it with a layer of extremely dense energy waves. This energy fluctuation was the combination of the life and death yin-yang sword and the 9 netherworld phoenix ring. It was guaranteed to be able to fool people. Luo Qingtong took the useless ring and went out. At this moment, a group of uninvited guests came to the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin. Your Majesty. In the imperial study, the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin was flipping through all kinds of things copied from Mo Qinchuan's residence. Mo Qinchuan's ambition was obvious. He even made the dragon robe for his coronation in advance. The sage emperor of the Empire of Qin was so angry that his whole body trembled. He flipped the table and ordered the people in the imperial study to teach Mo Qinxian a lesson. They must find out who the ambitious heavenly doctor behind him was. Ma Qinyi sat on the seat below, listening to the sage emperor's furious outburst. At this moment, an urgent shout came from outside. Then, a guard of the imperial house suddenly walked in from outside and knelt down in the imperial study. Your Majesty, Elder Xia of Celestial Palace requests an audience. Your Majesty, Elder Xia is a saint. The sage emperor of the Empire of Qin's expression changed when he heard the guard's words. The saint that the other party spoke of was not the saint stage powerhouse that ordinary people spoke of. Instead, he was a transcendent saint. Quickly invite him in. Although he didn't know why the outer sect elder of Celestial Palace wanted to see him, the sacred emperor of the Empire of Qin wouldn't neglect him. As the supreme being of the sacred dynasty, he naturally knew about the hidden world. He also knew that Celestial Palace's influence was not weak. What's more, the person who came was a saint, who was on par with the saint transcendence of the royal family of the Empire of Qin. Immediately, he hurriedly asked someone to invite him in. On the other hand, Ma Qinye's elegant and handsome face instantly darkened when he heard that someone from Celestial Palace had come to visit. If he remembered correctly, Su Diheng's wife was from Celestial Palace. He heard that she was an outer sect deacon, so she was very respected in the four great sacred dynasties. In the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin, even the Grand Supreme Dean had to show her some respect. Su Diheng's achievements today were mostly thanks to her. Could it be that someone from Celestial Palace came to the Empire of Qin at this time to support her? Thinking of this, Ma Chenye's original intention to leave when he heard that someone was coming was gone. Chapter 1095. Ma Chenye sat down again and looked at the group of people who came in expressionlessly. Sure enough, Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue were among them. The two of them accompanied Elder Xie. When they walked into the imperial study, they saw Mo Chenai sitting on the left at a glance and immediately smiled. Your Highness. After greeting the Holy Emperor, the two looked at Ma Chenye sarcastically. Especially Su Diheng, who looked at Ma Chenye with even more sarcasm. The other side helped Luo Qingtong to deal with them. Although the other side really wanted to deal with Mo Chenxian, it was a fact that he helped Luo Qingtong. This time, they wanted to make him fall to the bottom. The two's eyes made Ma Chenye's heart sink. At this moment, Elder Xie's voice sounded. Your Majesty, I came here this time to ask the Holy Emperor of the Empire of Qin to make a decision for us. He tapped his fingers on the table in front of him and said coldly, I came to the holy capital of the Empire of Qin this time and will leave after a few days. But... He raised his head coldly and said, I went to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin to see Deacon Shin. A student of the Holy Academy, when I wasn't paying attention, lured away the precious beast of the Celestial Palace, the gold-seeking hamster. The gold-seeking hamster still had the treasures we got along the way. Because the gold-seeking hamster liked those treasures very much, we didn't take them off but let it play with them. Now that the gold-seeking hamster and the treasures are missing, I wanted to break into the Holy Academy and take back the treasures. But I thought that this is the territory of the Empire of Qin and I can't go too far. So I came to ask the Holy Emperor to give us a perfect justice and explanation. As soon as Elder Xie said this, Ma Chenye's face changed completely. The other side really came to make trouble. And the one who was looking for trouble was Luo Qingtong. Thinking of the way Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue looked at him, Ma Chenye's heart suddenly thumped. How could he not know that the student of the Saint Academy that they were talking about was Luo Qingtong? With this thought, he suddenly stood up and said to the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin, Father, you must investigate this matter thoroughly. It's impossible for Luo Qingtong to do these things. He cupped his hands and said anxiously, Father, Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue have always been at odds with Luo Qingtong because of Su Jinyue and Yuan Mo. Previously, when Imperial younger brother falsely accused Luo Qingtong of cheating at the Elders' Assembly, the two of them were behind it. Father, you must not listen to their words. It's not good for her. As soon as Ma Chenye said this, Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue sneered. Your Highness is really interesting. Elder Xie hasn't said who that person is. You can't wait to be so sure that it's Luo Qingtong. You can see what kind of person she is. What's more? Su Diheng sneered, it's fine if you say that we slandered Luo Qingtong. Elder Xie is a dignified saint. Why would he slander Luo Qingtong? If it wasn't true, who would make things difficult for a little student? He deliberately emphasized the words, little student. Hearing this, the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin nodded and said, that's right. Saint Xie really doesn't have to slander a student. What kind of status did a saint have? How could he make things difficult for a student for no reason? Not to mention telling such a lie. Chapter 1096. The Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin thought so and disagreed with Ma Chenye's words. He didn't know that it was impossible to avenge Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue. But it was entirely possible to avenge the treasure that even the gold-seeking hamster was excited about. Come. The Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin said in a deep voice, go to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin and capture the student named Luo Qingtong. Ask her to hand over the treasure of the celestial palace and the gold-seeking hamster. Father. The voice of the Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin sounded. Ma Qianye's voice suddenly sounded. The Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin didn't even pay attention to him. Ma Qianye had no choice but to sit there and wait anxiously. He only hoped that Su Diheng and the others were talking nonsense. In this way, after Luo Qingtong was captured and brought to the palace, he could still exonerate her. At that time, with her identity as the Princess of Great Chu, she would be fine. That's right. And the Grand Dean. He must know about this matter and let him come with the Grand Tutor to support Luo Qingtong. Thinking so, Ma Qianye immediately winked at the people around him. Immediately, some of his trusted aides left the room and went to look for the Grand Principal and the others. Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue had been paying attention to Ma Qianye's movements. Seeing these movements around him, they suddenly sneered. The smile on their lips was very gloomy and proud. Luo Qingtong was definitely doomed this time. The more the Grand Dean and the others stood up for her, the better. At that time, they could catch all of them in one fell swoop and avenge their previous hatred. Let them help Luo Qingtong. At that time, none of them would be able to escape. The group of people was very calm and composed. Luo Qingtong went back to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin after burying the fake things. In the courtyard, Yu Qingwei was waiting for Luo Qingtong. Su Xiaoxiao and the others were chatting with her. Ever since the incident at the Elder Conference, the relationship between the Qingwei group and the Heavenly Demon group had been completely reconciled. Su Xiaoxiao and the others were grateful to Yu Qingwei for bringing the Qingwei group to help. Although they weren't able to help in the end, they didn't have any prejudice against them. The group of people got along very well. As for Yu Qingwei, Su Xiaoxiao and the others quite liked her. This was especially true for Su Xiaoxiao. As a member of the pharmaceutical department, she liked to interact with Yu Qingwei. The two of them didn't take the usual path when it came to alchemy, so they had a lot to talk about when they were together. But today, Yu Qingwei almost didn't speak. Not only that, she kept anxiously asking Luo Qingtong where she was, asking her to come out because she had something urgent to tell her. Boss has gone out. Su Xiaoxiao and the others looked at her and said. Seeing Yu Qingwei's restless appearance, they seemed to have sensed something and immediately said, Senior Sister Qingwei, why are you looking for boss? If there's anything, you can also tell us. The group said. That's right. Senior Sister Qingwei, is there something that you don't want to talk about? Just say it. That's right. Boss just went out and no one knows when she'll be back. If there's something urgent, you can tell us first. Yu Qingwei looked at them and didn't know what to say. She just received news from Ma Qianye. The latter thought about it and decided to let Luo Qingtong leave first. The Celestial Palace's people came aggressively and were probably prepared. Even if Luo Qingtong really didn't take their treasure, they wouldn't let it go. Chapter 1097. He had Yu Qingwei send a message to Luo Qingtong in order to not attract attention. After all, in the eyes of many people, even if the two of them had let go of their former enmity, their relationship wouldn't be that good. It was just a pretense. If the Grand Principal sent a message or Ma Qianye sent it himself, Luo Qingtong would probably be stopped before she could leave the Empire of Qin's holy courtyard. However, who would have thought that Luo Qingtong wasn't in the Empire of Qin's holy courtyard at this time? Unable to tell Luo Qingtong this news, Yu Qingwei couldn't sit still. At this time, Luo Qingtong returned. Senior Sister Qingwei. She saw Yu Qingwei surrounded by Su Xiaoxiao and the others in the pavilion and wanted to ask her what was going on. The latter also anxiously stood up and wanted to tell her what happened in the Empire of Qin's imperial palace. However, at this time, a clamor suddenly sounded from outside. Luo Qintong. Where's Luo Qintong? Who's Luo Qintong? Yu Qingwei's expression suddenly changed when she heard the series of shouts. Damn it, the sage emperor sent people. She hurriedly said to Luo Qintong, junior sister Luo, quickly leave. The celestial palace's people found the sage emperor and said you took their treasure. They're going to capture you now. The situation was urgent, so Yu Qingwei couldn't explain to Luo Qintong what the celestial palace was and why the other party went to the sage emperor and said she took their treasure. However, Luo Qintong immediately understood. The gold-seeking hamster's master came. She narrowed her eyes and said to Little Pig in her mind. Apart from this reason, she couldn't think of any other reason why the other party said she took their treasure. Did they know she had a treasure in her hands? Perhaps the gold-seeking hamster's strange behavior was caused by them. They were nearby at that time. However, the celestial palace. Luo Qintong raised her eyebrows. She suddenly remembered that Su Diheng's wife was an external deacon of a mysterious sect. Could it be this celestial palace? As she thought of this, she immediately connected the dots. Just as Yu Qingwei's voice fell, a group of people barged in from outside. Miss Yu is wrong. She's not going anywhere today. After hearing Yu Qingwei's words clearly, the commander of the internal guards who had been ordered to capture Luo Qintong suddenly gestured towards Luo Qintong. Luo Qintong, by order of the sage emperor, you are invited to the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin. Please don't make things difficult for us. When the commander of the internal guards left the imperial palace, he was warned by Ma Chenye's men to not disrespect Luo Qintong. Mo Chenxian was already deposed. If there were no accidents, Ma Chenye would be the future ruler of the Empire of Qin. Under such circumstances, the commander of the internal guards was still very willing to do the crown prince a favor. Therefore, he didn't immediately attack Luo Qintong. However, he didn't know that Ma Chenye's words had actually saved their lives. If they dared to attack Luo Qintong, they wouldn't end up any better than those people from the Sacred Academy's law enforcement team. Okay, I'll go with you. Luo Qintong narrowed her eyes at them, then nodded and walked out with them. Boss. Su Xiaoxiao and the others only just recovered from their shock and almost chased after them. However, this time was different from when they went to the Elders' Guild. The soldiers of the Imperial Guards didn't allow them to follow. What should we do? Chapter 1098. Bastards. What the hell is that celestial palace? Why are they targeting boss? Is there something wrong with their brains? Our boss wants to steal their treasure. How shameless. Yuan, who is so angry that he punches the stone pillar next to him. Boss is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. What treasure doesn't she have? That underworld venerable in the Black Field can't wait to give her the entire Black Field. Moreover, even if the Black Field doesn't have a treasure, boss won't even bother to steal or snatch it. These people are too much. This is a false accusation. It is a false accusation, Yu Qingwei says. She bites her lip. In the end, she didn't make it in time. She doesn't know if anything will happen to Luo Qintong. Celestial Palace is a very powerful sect from the hidden world. The one who came this time is their outer sect elder, a saint transcendence expert. He said that Qintong took his treasure. No one would doubt it. And the Celestial Palace therein is the sect where Su Diheng's wife, Shen Chuyue, is in. Yuan Hu and the rest instantly understand after hearing Yu Qingwei's words. F***CK. If that's the case, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for them to frame boss? No. Boss is in danger. The group of people immediately react. If that person from Celestial Palace was really called by Shinchuyue to deal with Luo Qingtong, then this time, saying that Luo Qingtong took their treasure is completely a conspiracy. No matter whether Luo Qingtong admits it or not, they won't let her off. Not good. The group of people instantly panics. Especially when they think that the outer sect elder from Celestial Palace is actually a saint transcendence expert, they panic even more. Quick! Let's go to the Black Field and inform the people in the Black Field that boss is in danger. As they speak, they stomp their feet and are about to run out. It's useless. Yu Qingwei looked at them and shook her head. Even if Luo Qingtong and the Black Field's evil Dr. Ghost I have a good relationship, the latter may not be able to protect her. That's a transcendent saint we're talking about. Unless we can invite someone like Ming Zun from the Black Field, only then would we be able to fight against him. But why would such a person fight against a transcendent saint for Luo Qingtong? Even if evil Dr. Gui Tong personally begs him, I'm afraid it's still impossible. Moreover, behind that elder Xia is the Celestial Palace. Yu Qingwei analyzed seriously with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. She wasn't trying to dampen their enthusiasm and confidence. But it was true. Ordinary people simply wouldn't go against a transcendent saint or even the sect behind the other party for a student like Luo Qingtong. In truth, the sage emperor might have known that Luo Qingtong was innocent. But between a student and a transcendent saint, or even the Celestial Palace, who was more important? Naturally, it was the latter. That's why the sage emperor sent people to capture Luo Qingtong after listening to Elder Xia's side of the story. No, you're wrong. Su Xiaoxiao shook off Yu Qingwei's hand. She looked at her seriously and said word by word, Senior Sister Qingwei, you don't know what will happen if something happens to our boss. Not to mention Elder Xia, Celestial Palace, even the empire of Qin dynasty will have to use blood to wash away the anger of the Black Field. Or it could be said that the anger of the Black Field's Ming Zun. Those who had seen how much Yi Qianxian cared about Luo Qingtong wouldn't doubt that the Black Field's Ming Zun would go to that extent for her. If something happened to Luo Qingtong, the world would be buried with her. Chapter 1099. Yu Qingwei was startled by her words, but before she could react, Su Xiaoxiao had already waved her hand away. Seeing them leave without looking back, Yu Qingwei's mind kept replaying Su Xiaoxiao's words. If something happened to Luo Qingtong, the empire of Qin Holy Dynasty and Celestial Palace would have to use blood to wash away the Black Field's anger. How much confidence did she have to be able to say something like that? And Su Xiaoxiao and the others were clearly only people from the empire of Tianyu. How could they say something like that? What's more, Luo Qingtong was only a young girl from a marquee mansion from a low-level country. Even if Yu Qingwei never judged people based on their appearance or status, she couldn't deny the fact that Luo Qingtong came from a lowly background. The only thing Luo Qingtong could rely on was that she knew evil Dr. Gui Tong and had a relationship with her. But having a relationship didn't mean they would protect her unconditionally. Knowing her didn't mean the Black Field would protect her. Did Su Xiaoxiao and the others think Luo Qingtong was that evil Dr. Gui Tong? Only that evil Dr. Gui Tong would be able to obtain the full protection of the Black Field and the Black Field's underworld venerate in exchange for the destruction of the Celestial Palace and the empire of Qin Holy Dynasty. Thinking up to here, Yu Qingwei suddenly froze. Luo Qingtong. Evil Dr. Gui Tong. Information about both sides suddenly flashed through her mind uncontrollably. Luo Qingtong came from a low-level country, Dongli country. Evil Dr. Gui Tong rose from a Black Field branch city in Dongli country. Evil Dr. Gui Tong's medical skills were unparalleled, his alchemy skills were superb, and his alchemy skills were top-notch. And when the Qingwei group was dealing with the Heavenly Demon group, a mysterious honorary lead pharmacist suddenly appeared. He obtained the approval of the Grand Master and the Grand Principal of the pharmacist group, defeated her in a challenge, and refined a real pill elixir. The elixir aura contained within the elixir liquid was incomparably dense, and it was no different from a real elixir. Thinking of this, Yu Qingwei immediately sucked in a deep breath. The things that he had never thought of before were instantly dispelled by Su Xiaoxiao's words. Luo Qingtong was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. This was the evil Dr. Ghost pupil who had caused the Blackfield's deep revered to fall in love with her and protect her wholeheartedly. He had even said that no one in the entire True Spill continent would be able to harm her. That was why evil Dr. Gui Tong was so protective of the Luo clan. That was why he destroyed Tianyu's royal family for the Luo clan. It was only when the Qing Wei group was dealing with the heavenly demon group that the honorary lead disciple of the mystic pharmacy suddenly appeared. If it was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, then it was no wonder that the Medicine Institute's great teacher and grand principal would make her the honorary chief without any hesitation. Not to mention, no one could surpass her position in the Medicine Institute. How could he surpass it? The other party was already an alchemist. Moreover, his alchemy skills had reached the acme of perfection. Even those old monsters did not dare to say that they could compare to him. As Yu Qingwei thought of this, she realized just how great this matter was. If Luo Qingtong really was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, then the Celestial Palace and the Empire of Qin's holy dynasty would be in deep trouble. Thinking of the anger of the Blackfield's deep revered, she fiercely shivered. The Empire of Qin's Imperial Palace. Luo Qingtong was accompanied by the Imperial Palace's internal guards who had come to invite her into the grand discussion hall. In order to express the importance of this matter, the Empire of Qin's Holy Emperor had changed the location of the interrogation from the Imperial Study to the grand discussion hall. The Imperial Palace's inner courtyard was heavily guarded. Wherever they passed, sabers, spears, swords, and halberds would shoot out cold light in all directions. Chapter 1100. Luo Qingtong, you didn't think you'd have such a day, did you? The two men's expressions were cold as they mouthed Luo Qingtong. Their murderous intent towards Luo Qingtong was evident as they opened and closed their mouths. Today, they wanted Luo Qingtong to never be able to walk out of this door. As for Elder Xia, a trace of amazement flashed through his eyes as he looked at the stunning young girl who walked in. He didn't think that this student, whom Su Diheng and Shen Chuyue hated to the bone, would be so stunning. If she could obediently hand over the treasures on her body, it wasn't like he couldn't keep her and play with her by his side. Presumably, she would be very happy to do so. After all, this was an honor that many people couldn't even ask for. Seeing his gaze, the little pig in Luo Qingtong's arms snorted and said, "Hey, woman, that Elder Xia seems to have taken a fancy to you." Oh my God. With a face full of wrinkles, he still wants to learn from others and eat young grass. Hearing its words, Luo Qingtong glanced indifferently at Elder Xia and didn't say anything. On the other side, Ma Chenyi had already stood up. Qingtong. Grand Tutor Jiang and the Grand Principal stood beside him. It was obvious that the two of them had been called over by Ma Chenyi. Luo Qingtong had just learned about Ma Chenyi's painstaking efforts from Yu Qingwei and immediately nodded towards him. It was said that true hearts were revealed in adversity. It was indeed so. When the Celestial Palace made things difficult for her, not only did Ma Chenyi not retreat, but he did his best to help her. It could be said that he didn't let her down for her previous help. She really didn't misjudge him. Qingtong. Ma Chenyi's heart was anxious. He didn't think that Luo Qingtong would appear here. Didn't he ask Yu Qingwei to inform her to leave? Could it be that something went wrong? When the Grand Principal saw Luo Qingtong's arrival, he frowned fiercely and transmitted a message to her, "Luo girl, this matter is not easy to handle. That Elder Xia has the strength of a saint transcendence and is considered a powerhouse among the ordinary saint transcendents. I think you'd better reveal your identity so that they won't dare to touch you. His expression was dignified. To the Grand Principal naturally hoped that Luo Qingtong's identity wouldn't be exposed so quickly. This way, they would have one more trump card in the Saint Court. But this situation was different. The Celestial Palace was be considered to be a big sect in the hidden world. As elders SSSSSSSB. TSSS. SSSSSSTSSSSSS have a S. After all, he wasn't a true saint transcendence. His was only slightly above the saint realms. In addition, he had been injured these years, which delayed his advancement. If nothing unexpected happened, his would have been